Part 1, Chapter 7, 332. A low rumbling hiss cupped both my ears as a desolate blackness coated this barren room. Dead water without a speck of light. I waited in the night air and inhaled a musky metallic scent. My attention shifted from left to right, up and down, but found nothing unordinary. Only the basement beneath my house without the clutter or door. A dirt-floored room in the underbelly of a creaking home, tempted by howling winds above and frighteningly claustrophobic to those with the haunting disposition. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My stout breaths came in sharp puffs, almost mechanical if not for the occasional glitch that emptied my lungs entirely, only to be refilled in one long intake. Breathing, not of my own will, but by the will of some unseen force, tended for like an infant, incapable otherwise. The sputtering sound of my own breathing filled my skull, while blood coursed through my veins in slow motion. Cold, full of microscopic thorns and in absorbing cotton clumps. A small eternity held me hostage, just staring at where the bulkhead door should be. In its place was a flat wall and a shadow, tall, slender, and lacking human features. Mist-like and never entirely still, yet contained to one place. Two narrow yellow eyes tethered mine and fed me deep, saturated sorrow. With each passing second, I felt the urge to burst into tears, scream in terror, and thrash around until the building came crashing down on my head. Insanity. Then it flickered, and I was able to blink for the first time. It took on a new shape, smaller now. Only one eye was yellow, and the other was missing. Pained whispers filled the air and clogged my throat with their woes. My eyes widened as shock stole the heat from my body, and the whispering grew louder in my head. Suddenly, I was in my living room. I stood beside the couch where the end table should be, in front of the kitchen and facing the intersecting hallway that led to my father's room. I could move my head, but only to track this visible current of air that snaked in a linear path before me. Transparent brown and glittering with flakes of purple glass, it entered through the living room window, made a wide arc around the corner, and entered his bedroom. It held my attention completely, now similar to me as a stream of pure vapor, randomly flexing and shrinking like a strained muscle waiting to tear. The color was horribly inconsistent. Those purple flakes shimmering like glass would fade to a blood red or pure white, dimming and igniting as a dying ember would, if given oxygen. The stream itself started to swirl like a drill and began foaming in splotches, darkening. Fixated, perplexed and wordless, I numbingly stared without understanding just what it was doing to me, just what it was taking. A prisoner for it to marvel, not the other way around. Willless and perpetually devoid of preservation, until I tried to move my body. When I felt the commanding signal shoot from my brain to my finger, the stream disappeared, replaced by a billowing scream that pierced straight through me and triggered a full-body reaction. The room went completely dark, as though the vapid space itself had inhaled all the shadows in the world and filled this void to the brim to suffocate me. It slowly leveled out in my view, and the shapes I knew were defined again. Now dark in a natural way, I glanced around and was horrified to see the house full of people. Children and teens. They were unique, each in various states of decomposition, some seemingly frozen in their final moments, screaming in silence. Utter silence. Aware of myself and all that I am, I almost felt, in a way, like I knew them all. In the background, replacing the howling wind from before, was a morbid cacophony of overlapping cries, sobbing, childlike and hopeless. My heart split in two, and my own eyes began burning with regret. I woke with a start, sitting up with such force to pull a muscle in my back and hobble forward. I panted, sweat running down my neck and a piercing ring ricocheting in my skull. Each wheezing breath grounded me more and more as familiar senses bled into a conscious conglomeration and established that I was, in fact, alive. I frantically shot my stare around the room. Blurry human outlines lagged in my peripheral, slowly fading with every jittering turn until nothing remained. Before a word could be spoken, break the spell of sleep for good, I saw a shimmer in the corner closest to the door. I snapped to it, but it disappeared in the fraction of a second it took for me to comprehend. One faded citrine orb. A lump formed in my throat as panic started to settle. My breath returned in gulps, and the ache in my bones plateaued. I ran my fingers through my hair, gripping a bundle of the crown and pulling it tight as worry embodied my expression. I released my hair and threw the comforter off my legs, letting it fold over the bottom corner of the bed while I leaned to ignite my lamp. When fresh light revealed my room, I felt infinitely more safe. Safe enough to step off the bed and turn all the way around to confirm I was alone. I vigorously rubbed my eyes until I saw colorful splotches form, then waited for my mind and body to unify. I latched onto the window. Right away, I felt soothing calmness as a fiery orange hue painted the glass. Sluggishly, I made my way around the foot of my bed and placed myself at the sill. The rising sun cast deep pockets of shadows all across the canopy. The sound of tweeting birds could be heard even through the glass, and that pretty, sparkling dew in the grass below all worked together to level my nerves. The sun shined just enough to tell me specifically that things are all right. I opened the window a couple inches and took a long breath. The sweet smell of wet pine and weightless mist carried additional comfort to my troubled soul, washing away the sharpest layers of my morbid perception. Though the image of my home filled with potentially dead children stuck to my brain like sap, I allowed blissful wonderment to coat my skin. The coming daylight gave me just enough vigor that the horrible visions seemed ever distant enough to, hopefully, sleep a couple more minutes. However, I knew my dad wouldn't be up for a little bit longer, and I could easily sneak down for a quick breakfast. I tiptoed across my floor and slipped out into the hallway. This velvet shadow on my shoulders followed me around and tempted my thoughts to stumble to bleak. But that little sunlight seeped in through the living room windows and lit enough of the house to give me a shred of confidence. The stairs creaked with each patient's step, alerting spiders and baby mice of my path. As I reached the threshold, I saw my dad's bedroom door was shut tight to my left. I indulged in the stillness of a somber morning. This was a different kind of silence, one that I could submerge into every day for the rest of my life, if not for the seductive embrace of my warm blankets. I held my breath a moment, just listening to the sleepy air. A fragile smile creased my lips. Behind the wall, I could hear his soft snoring rumble and wheeze. I didn't feel that oppressive anxiety telling me something was wrong, not to the degree I'm used to. I feel almost good, though I wouldn't admit that out loud for fear of jinxing myself. I sauntered to the kitchen and listened to the humming ring of a sleeping morning. Soft plastic tapping rippled the air as I set a bowl on the counter in preparation for the cereal. It was green and had a built-in straw running up the side, a feature I never used because I didn't trust it was ever clean. The cabinet magnet clacked as I unstuck it and located a box of simple fruit and oats. Flavorless, but rich in fiber. I shook the bottom quarter free and slotted my spoon, crinkling the plastic bag and returning the box to the cabinet. Milk came next, then returned to the door without so much of a peep. I'm glad he went shopping again, though I'm sure his wallet didn't appreciate it. I took my seat on the couch and gave a longing look past the tattered curtains. The trees just beyond the narrow side yard were almost glowing as more yellow light washed over the land. The serene song of birds and the distant vibration of cars on the main road made my chest warm. I didn't dare turn the TV on. Knowing my dad, he probably left the volume a bit too high, and I don't see the remote anywhere in sight, so there's no way I'd be able to reduce the volume before it shook the house. Instead, I sat in the static and took my first bite. The crunch reverberated in my head and made me entirely aware of my own bodily noises. I did my best to ignore the squelch of every swallow, the smack of licking milk from my lips, and all the little weird breathing noises. In a few minutes, all that was left was the milk, and I downed that in just 3 big gulps. When I dropped my head and exhaled a satisfied breath, I saw a white coffee mug on the center table before me. It had some dark liquid at the bottom and a chip in the handle. A nice part of me wanted to wash it along with my bowl, but the knowing side anticipated him getting upset because he didn't actually want it clean. With a stretch, I got to my feet and let out a long yawn. As I rinsed the bowl off in the sink, I heard the mattress creak and some fabric rustling. He must be slowly coming to, which means this lovely solo morning is about to be disturbed. I gave the bowl a quick drying off and set it on the right side of the sink. Then, with careful haste, I glided back down the hallway, up the stairs, and shut myself into my personal, tiny bathroom. The light hummed briefly before flickering on, painting me in dirty light and revealing my terrible bedhead. I smirked at my reflection, amused by the disheveled mess, and ran my fingers through the knots. I liked my hair to be a little messy, so it didn't take much to tame the nest. I debated a shower, but decided against it, so as not to inform him I was awake. Groggy Dad is almost as insensitive and arrogant as Tipsy Dad, so best to let him slog out of bed and wobble out the door. In this little room, the nightmare found me again. My smile started to fade. By looking at my own reflection long enough, I began to remember the decayed people sobbing in the dark. Their faces weren't clear to me, but I felt like I knew them. Or maybe they knew me. Maybe in some twisted way I was them. Whatever the case, I hated that the visual was so vivid. I heard his door open. My eyes shifted to the side, looking at the bathroom light switch on the wall, but in my head I visualized his every step out of the room. Not quite my imagination, more piecing together some innate awareness. At least, that's what it felt like. Right then a headache stabbed me, and I shut my eyes. With the dark, it went away, and I shook my head, opening my eyes and reconnecting with myself. A sigh. If there's a ghost in the house, can you just hurry up and convince me you're real so I can stop wondering? I said at a low volume. I heard my dad clear his throat and drudge up some mucus. He spat it out, but it didn't sound like it was by the sink. I squinted, picturing him collecting the coffee mug and hawking a loogie either into it or onto the carpet. My tongue stuck out in disgust either way. That's when I caught a whiff of my breath. I had a little over an hour before I had to leave for school, so I spent some time freshening up while I could. First, I brushed my teeth and got the taste of milk off my tongue. Then I wet my hands and lightly scrubbed at my face and neck to clean any drool or dead skin. Deodorant, clipping my nails, and pinching blackheads came next. Now I was awake, full, renewed, and optimistic for the last school day before the weekend. I exited the bathroom without any noise, creeping up to the railing and glancing over. The house was much brighter now, and I could hear him starting the shower. Right then, the reality of it being Friday struck me. I have no plans this weekend, nowhere to go, and no one to see. It's going to be a long, dull, agonizing 2 days. However, on the bright side, I do have something to look forward to today, and so far, I had a good feeling about it.